Well, let's take a look at energy prices here. Under pressure on some signs of Europe stepping up efforts to curb an energy crisis as winter approaches. The European Union making its contribution with planning emergency measures to tackle soaring power costs, pounding businesses and households. Obviously, we've been watching WTI, Brent crude, but nat gas, a big one as well. And we did see this pullback as soon as we heard the EU was actually stepping in. Now, the question is going to be, what's the plan? And of course, the context in all of this is that Europe has been heavily reliant on Russian gas, especially, but also oil. And as the uncertainty of what that supply looks like going into the winter takes hold, we're seeing prices go up. We're seeing concerns about that. Right now, it looks like inventory levels in terms of storage for the winter are coming in higher than were expected around this time of year. But of course, there's still a lot of uncertainty. We've got the Nord Stream 1 pipeline, that maintenance starting. A lot of questions still about what things are going to look like over in Europe come winter.
And we've heard a lot of European leaders already warn about what could be a very dark winter if that nat gas, isn't in the supply that they need it in. Now, of course, a lot of that, as you mentioned, due to the political headwinds coming out of Russia, Ukraine. But look, we have to remember that even outside of the dark winter that the European nations face, the high price of nat gas and the lack of supply of it is really detrimental to a lot of other emerging and developing countries as well. I had the chance to speak with David Malpass over at the World Bank on Friday in Jackson Hole, and he was saying this is something that keeps him up at night, especially given the reliance on the fertilizer industry on nat gas. That impacts food production. Take a listen to what he said on Friday.
Huge problem. We have some new numbers that will be coming out over the next month showing that rise in poverty. We want to have better food systems, so we're working directly with countries to try to improve their systems. We're talking with the advanced economies. One of the critical variables for the world is to produce more natural gas because it goes into the food chain, and that's so vital for the people, poor people, wherever they are in the world.
So that story on nat gas is actually exacerbating the poverty picture worldwide, which makes this such an important story.
Yeah, and that's something that we've heard the World Bank as well as UN World Food Program warn about. Bringing the conversation back to Europe, and it's worth noting that the EU obviously is made up of 27 countries, and that's part of the problem, is that every one of these countries has a different approach they'd like to take in order to cap those prices. A number of possibilities being put out there. In addition, one including decoupling the link between gas and electricity. Another one that's been talked about here in the U.S., imposing windfall tax on profits on energy companies. That's been put out there as well. And, it's worth mentioning that Germany, which is the most heavily reliant on Russian gas, their inflation print coming in at the highest level in nearly 50 years. So we are already seeing a significant impact. The fear is the supply coming in the winter, in addition to what that means for the cost of living.
Yeah, and that shows that the dynamics at play here are really not going to shake themselves out until even beyond the winter, right? Because it's not until that winter crunch that we're really going to see the pain of all of this. And even though prices have already risen quite a lot from the charts that we just showed, how much higher is that going to go as we get into November and December? That's going to be worth watching.